Hi, YouTube. Today I want to talk about where I grew up. So I grew up in London. I grew up in quite a hardcore estate, actually. I don't want to actually give names about where the estate is because it doesn't exist anymore. It was that bad that they knocked it down. They couldn't salvage it. It's like, it's too bad. It's too dangerous. We just got to knock it all down and start over again. That is literally how bad it was. But you could argue that my experience actually made me the man I am today. You know, that's not a bad thing. And, you know, those that aren't familiar, about London is that everyone thinks they speak like, the Queen's English. But, there's so many different accents in London, kids these days, it's probably known as like, speaking like a roadman, like it's probably more like Cockney when I grew up, or I guess I don't know how you would describe it. Yeah, I guess it's just kind of like school speech. So, yeah, I guess, I actually, believe it or not, if those who knew me when I was 14, I actually sound like that. And then I guess this is actually my normal voice. This is actually how I sound. Actually, people actually are really surprised. Actually, they will be very surprised if they actually knew where I grew up, and how I sound. And it was quite, it was quite a rough area. And, when I go, I went to school in Highgate, and was that a private school? No, it's not a private school. It was a Catholic school, but it was still pretty rough, I think garage was quite big at the time, but I was into new metal, so I got on the wrong ends of certain crowds there. So there was a lot of beef, but that's fine, But yeah, you get me, bruv. I'm saying, yeah. Don't look at me like that, bruv, yeah? Yeah, don't look at me like that, bruv, man. Because mans will end you, bruv. So yeah, it was a bit like that. So that was me. And so one of the things that I, always do when I meet a new group of friends or start a new job is that anytime someone would talk about, have you guys tried this restaurant, or, have you done this before? And, there's this really great coffee that I'm having. And I would just always like to start, my intros like, oh yeah, I had that coffee before. It reminds me of that time when I was in prison. And then there's this weird silence where people actually don't know what to say. And then they'll be like, what? And I'd be like, yeah, I did time while I was in prison. And there's actually a few moments where people actually still think I'm being serious, but, I'm not being serious. But let's be honest, if you saw me, what kind of crime do you think I would be in prison for? I like to think that I would be a serial killer, but I think a lot of people think it's kind of white collar crime, I did fraud or something, or hacking, which is fair enough. I've got the glasses and stuff like that, and I'm Asian. But I like, I don't know if you can tier different crimes, but I think murdering someone, I'm not saying it's cool, but it's probably cooler than trying to commit fraud, right? It's more of a glamorized crime, could you say? Even though actually committing fraud to get hundreds of millions of pounds is probably the smarter crime and probably more worth the risk of actually doing, if you ask me. But anyway, I guess this video is just to touch upon myself and growing up. Like, yeah, I was, like most people talk about on YouTube, it's about being an introvert, and I've done the personality test and I know myself, I am an introvert. And I'm actually surprised that as I got older and, worked in different places, and actually some people actually viewed me as someone that was probably more extroverted. And that didn't come overnight, that was just something that I kind of worked on. It was just like, if I want to improve my life, I actually have to talk to people, learn how to communicate, and not be scared really. Or just be scared and, just get, just do it, have a red face, but just still see it through, in that conversation, in that presentation, but just learn to speak slowly and really try to get my thoughts across was the important thing, which I am doing now. And like have eye contact was key, instead of always looking down and like, because people, they see that and they like, oh, this person doesn't know anything, or they might see that as a sign of weakness. Not like I really cared, but I think it was just more for me. Like, it was more for me, but like me showing myself as confident or able or competent really was actually from a noble place. That I didn't want to let down my team that I was probably representing, or let down my manager that I may be kind of standing in for in a meeting. And I suppose that was mainly the motivation for me to improve my confidence, or not being such an introvert. You could probably argue that being an introvert can hinder your career, or, starting new relationships. Because if you think about it, yes, there are loads of introverts that do very well. But if you're very introverted, you're not going to put yourself out there for that job. You're not going to put yourself out there to have that conversation with that person that might help you in whatever that thing may be, whether it is career or project or your potential wife or husband, any of that type of stuff. But I think growing up does have an impact on your development in terms of, a lot of people can relate that, being a person of color, my background is Vietnamese, and obviously being born in London, I'm not exactly English, am I? Or am I English? Or I'm British is probably the words. But yeah, you feel, you're always going to feel a bit of an outsider. But I think the times have changed. London is very diverse. It's a melting pot, really. But growing up, it did seem like I didn't fit in, if I was to be completely honest. There are always those standard challenges of, culture, but it's fine. You just got to live your own life and just, you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable is basically what I'm trying to get at. And that's, I guess that is success, whether you are an entrepreneur or you kind of really climb that career ladder, the more responsibility, the more tougher decisions you're going to make, they're going to be very uncomfortable, but you got to do them. You're the person that's got to execute and get it done and make that decision as well. You get me, bruv. So see you on the next one.